A lot lizard.
Wow. That's the first thing that went out on our podcast is Alex saying lot lizard. Hello,
Awesome.
hello and welcome everybody to the Nerd 2 Movie Podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We will be reviewing Twisted Metal, the television show. Which, overall, I mean, my first impressions are I dug it. There's a couple episodes I would have done without, but we'll go into detail on it. How have you, gentlemen, been?
I'm doing good.
Surviving.
That sounded enthusiastic.
Surviving.
Tuesday, I sat on my own nut, so that was fun.
Oof.
Yeah.
You're getting old, John.
Yeah.
You're getting old.
They touch the water first when you sit down.
So the last time we recorded it wasn't a video game IP. It was Transformers. I was gonna ask what you wanted to see adapted for cartoons or whatever, but is there? Because it got me thinking about the old school games. Is there a video game adaptation you would like to see? It doesn't have to be a TV show, or it could be movie, whatever.
Yep, I know exactly what comes to mind.
Live
Fable.
adaptation, live.
Nightmare Creatures. I would love to see
Really?
a Nightmare Creatures. I think it'd be great. It's action. You got, it falls in the trope of like fantasy creatures.
Jackie
So you
Chan
could do real well
Stuntmaster,
with
baby. No,
Yeah.
that's not my actual choice. I'm actually thinking about this one.
I expected Matt to say bonk.
Super Bonk, damn it. Or Joe and Mac, the Cavemen Warriors. I want a live action movie of that one. I don't know. Are we talking like any sort of old school video game property?
Yeah, I'm thinking more old school. Like I wanted to say BioShock, but I feel like I have to go a bit older than that.
Hi
A
KG,
lot
hi
of
Rusty.
people
BioShock would be a
Are having
great.
conversations of Metroid being one, and I guess there's talks, but like they're like, if they do it, it has to be, not rated. Maybe not rated R, but it
Yeah, I
has
don't think
to
you'd
be,
have to go R on that, but you'd have to definitely have a sci-fi horror vibe. Like it
Yeah.
couldn't be like a superhero movie. It'd have to be.
No, yeah.
She's in caves and giant creatures are fucking chasing her, man.
Floating fucking brains trying to kill you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like,
'cause the original Metroid was an homage to Aliens almost, so you'd have to.
Mhm.
well, that's why it's Samus is female. She's an homage to Ripley. God, dude, I don't know. Part of me would like to like Tenchu would be interesting. Like, I just want a reboot of
Ooh.
Tenchu, but that's a potentially interesting movie property.
We
I
could
don't
do
know.
it too.
Do
It
you
would
remem-
work as a live action.
Do you remember that game Expendable? It was a top-down shooter, which they then later did a Hollywood version of it, which starred Bruce Willis, and that was called something different. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a top-down shooter where like you basically it was your what would become your basic sort of isometric shooter. Alex is gonna go something really classic. I gotta shut this fucking Discord off.
So I wanted to go pretty classic. I always loved, and obviously it could be PlayStation era. I always wanted to see like a space epic of Gradius.
Gradius.
Don't know Gradius.
Should it's the like roller
Yeah.
like space
Pew,
shooter
pew,
game.
pew, pew, pew. You are so now I think we need to review the movie Pixels. Pixels.
That's a great. I like that movie.
Oh, yeah,
I
love
was
that one.
I was
Weird.
thinking something like Fable,
Fable
so that
would
way
be
you
good.
go around and kick fucking chickens, and they call you Chicken Chaser and shit like that.
Fable would have to be directed by like Guy Ritchie though. You know what I mean? Like he, something like that. Like you would have to have that sort of like Ricky Gervais British humor involved
Yeah,
in it.
absolutely.
Well, like the new one that got coming out has what is that guy's name? Richard Ayoade or whatever the fuck it is from the IT Crowd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was in the trailer as like a giant, I think. Either that or she's a Fae people. I don't know exactly. They weren't very clear. I'm not a jabron. Well, I might be. It depends if you're the Iron Sheik or not. Are you the Iron Sheik, Fabian? Dude, I'm still racking my brain. Right, Crash Bandicoot. Let's fucking figure that out, huh? No, what about games like Infamous? That'd be a great TV or movie. Fucking
Infamous would
nuclear
be.
bomb goes off in the middle of the city. You wake up with fucking electrical powers, which over 3 games develop into all sorts of powers. That'd be an awesome.
You know what would be
movie.
a fun one? Felony 1179.
I thought you were gonna say House of the Dead.
About,
Oh wait, they did that, and Alex took his wife to it for the first
Ah.
time.
Parasite Eve would be a cool movie.
Oh, Parasite Eve would be a good one.
What was the other one where it was more of a point and click than anything, but it had a lot of cutscenes, including the one where she was in the shower, and that was a big deal. It was the PS1 era. Fuck, they made a recent one of it, but it bombed horribly. You can buy it for like $2 on PC. I can't remember the name, but there was another one.
I know
We
what
used to
you're
shoot
talking
Larry.
about, and I can't.
No,
think of it.
Evil. No, not Evil Dark.
There's a V in it, I want to say. I'm thinking V as well somewhere.
Dark Vagina.
No,
that-
but that was the title of my diary you stole in the 5th grade.
I know exactly what the game
Yes,
is
right?
talking about, and I can't think of the
Is it
name.
something like Eve Online or some shit like that? Or?
No. It
No.
was it was PS1. It was a double disc. It was an RPG kind of point and click with a lot of cutscenes.
Oh, I was thinking of Perfect Dark.
Fear
Is it
Effect.
Perfect Dark.
Fear Effect.
Fear Effect. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like here's the thing is I'd like to get a good Tomb Raider movie, like one that's modeled after the newest trilogy, like a
Did they do
brutal
a
rated
Manhunt?
like a rated R one. Manhunt would be a good movie.
Oh,
Fabian,
Manhunt would be
Fabian
good.
said Manhunt, but didn't they do something like that already though?
No.
No.
See, that's the thing is Manhunt's storyline was you were a death row guy, you're on the you're getting executed, they inject the poison, and you fucking wake up, and you're told essentially make it through this obstacle course, and you're out. And so the whole thing is you're going through this entire like quarter of city that they've blocked off, just fucking slaughtering dudes to make your way. That Manhunt would be a cool concept. It's like
Manhunt
half,
would be cool.
be like half
yeah.
Saw, half Hunger Games almost.
Surprised Alex didn't say Oddworld.
Ooh, that would be a
Smash
good
TV.
one. Smash TV. Zombies ain't my neighbors.
Rap with a rapper.
Actually, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I think they are. I don't know if it's an animated or live action, but I believe there's a show coming for it.
Really?
Yeah.
They did. So did you guys see what they did with Quake 2? If you own it on Steam, they updated it and remastered it and updated the lighting and some of the textures, full controller support. Like, they did a good job on it. And if you own it, it's free. If not, it's $10 or it's on Game Pass. But the whole like they just did that with Rise of the Triad. If you remember that one, the whole classic first person shooter games are getting real fucking popular. That's why you have like indie developers making new ones. Like they took the old Duke Nukem engine and they made that that one game out of it. They made a brand new first person shooter out of it. It's all like
Now that you
huge.
mentioned Duke Nukem,
Duke Nukem.
and
I
Quake,
want Duke Nukem as a movie. Fucking give me fucking.
they are working on a movie for
Really?
that, but it's in development hell. Yes.
See, but cast the right fucking people, right? Like, you know who would be good, and I know he's overused. Josh Brolin seems like he'd be a good Duke. Fucking Thanos wouldn't do bad.
I
There's
can
a
see that.
game
For
on
a second,
Steam.
I thought you were going to say John Cena.
John Cena. Well, you know what? Goddamn, Lewis, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Come on, think about it. It's
He's got
Peacemaker.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one.
It's literally fucking
a-
Peacemaker.
There's a game on Steam, Matt. If you liked the old Duke Nukem's Quake Turok
Yeah.
concept,
Turok was a cool one.
Cultic. It's called Cultic.
Yes, I've seen that one.
It's really good.
Have you played the Warhammer? The Bloodshot or whatever the fuck it's called?
No, I've seen it though.
Oh,
It looks
it's
really good.
Well worth $20. Like I said, this is why I say, Alex, you can literally buy a shitty Call of Duty skin for Snoop Dogg for the third time in the fucking series for $20.
Not me, but go. I hear you.
Well, no, I'm just saying is like like I play Call of Duty and my choices are I could literally buy a great first person shooter that'll give me 20 hours of enjoyment, or I can run around a shithole of a game as Snoop Dogg. Again, I'm sorry, but if I was one of those people that bought Snoop Dogg,
weed leaves.
if I bought Snoop Dogg in Warzone 1 and the skin didn't transfer over because none of them did, I think you should fucking give me that next Snoop Dogg for free. Like I should have a credit on my account. You shouldn't be charging me another $20 for it.
That's kind of
See
fucked
it-
that those
is he a
skins
new
did not
skin
carry
now?
over.
Of course he's got a new skin, and when he kills you, pot leaves come out. It's fucking. I hate the game. Like Call of Duty has made me hate it. Like that would be. Give me a Michael Bay Call of Duty one, and by that I mean I don't want any fucking intelligence, unless it's military intelligence where it's just a bunch of guys in comms going Roger, Roger, Roger. That's all I want to fucking hear, and I want to see mass violence. Just give me a straight. What is the last balls to the wall action movie we've realistically had? The only ones that do them anymore are they were the Avengers movies, like the Endgame. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, actually, I haven't seen. I think we're going to watch that tomorrow, though. But like, other than those movies, where is the action movie scene? John Wick has been holding it down for fucking a decade.
It's too much machismo. You can't.
Yeah, they can't do it.
Dude, that pisses me off so much because that's why I love Asian cinema. Beyond the Ladyboy movies, the martial arts movies is where the only thing you get any testosterone in anymore. Even fucking movies where the dudes are masculine, they always have an emotional side. It's like, but I saved a bunny rabbit. It's like, but you just killed 47 people.
Well, even when you look at like Asian specific like action movies, like badass women in it are badass.
Yes.
Badass dudes in it are badass, and that's it. That's it.
But I love how the martial arts movies, specifically the Asian ones, pay attention to like, and I hate to say it this way, but their gender roles exist, but they exist like this. Badass female A beats the shit out of all other badass females in movie. Comes across badass male A, who has just beat the shit out of all the badass males in the movie. She gets some licks in, but he wins. Like, there's usually that sort of thing, and like the movie The Night Comes for Us. That chick in that movie was severely awesome. She's got that three-way fight where she wipes out both of them. Like, they do right now, like, everybody's talking, oh, we need more women in action movies in America. If you want women in action movies, watch the martial arts scene. It's full of badass fucking women that destroy. Like, there's some serious, like, the Raid really didn't have it, to be honest with you. The Raid was mainly dudes killing dudes. The Raid 2, you do have a really badass chick. She's the blind one with the hammers.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
There's a ton of martial arts movies that highlight badass fucking women that come in and just wreck shit. And I'm tired of, like, I've been hearing it all my life, we need more badass women. And it's like, I grew up with Sarah Connor. I don't know what the fuck you guys were watching, but...
You know what? I'm glad you point that out. Yeah, we grew up with, like, Sarah Connor,
Ripley.
Like, what the fuck, dude? They were fucking amazing. Like,
that's the thing, is they're pushing it now, and it's like, you don't need to push it on me. Like, some of my favorite movies have strong fucking female roles in them, and it's like, what you're doing now is just kind of, you're forcing it where it doesn't need to be forced. Like, look at how under-highlighted the Karen Gillan is from Guardians of the Galaxy as what's-her-face, the mechanical chick.
Nebula.
Like, Nebula is a true badass, from what I understand, specifically in the third movie, too, because she comes more into the fold. I haven't watched it yet. But, like, why is she so under-highlighted? Where do you ever see clips of, oh, shit, here's a Nebula fight scene? No, we're worried about Gamora. We're worried about Drax.
So,
like, it's a weird thing.
Pretty much everybody from Guardians is going to become a DC character now.
Oh, the actors?
Yeah, they've all swapped over.
Chris Pratt can be, I don't know, Captain Not a Nazi, whatever DC's got.
Captain Not a Nazi.
They'll have to
Honestly,
figure out something.
I would be surprised if they don't cast him as Booster Gold, he's just like a goofy fucking superhero.
Well, okay, so I feel like James Gunn right now is like John Lovitz from The Wedding Singer, where he's just like, he's losing his mind, and he's just picking off fucking Marvel people, and he's like, I'm reaping all the benefits. Henry Cavill we had to say goodbye to, but I picked up 3 of theirs. I want Cavill, just make Cavill Bond. Like, just fucking do it. I'm tired of the discussion. Like, let's stop acting like he's not the best fucking... Let's stop telling me Timothy Chalamet would be a better fucking James Bond.
How tall is Cavill?
I don't know, with his dick? 6 foot... I don't know. I think he's like Hollywood tallish, so probably 6'1", 6'2".
Because he looks like he would just be like an extremely tall Bond if he was.
Well, he's also extremely jacked. Like, if that James Bond would be maybe a little hard to camouflage, but he's also 6'1", so he's Hollywood tall. I mean... But so is Connery. Brosnan's not a short guy.
Yeah, Brosnan was not a short guy.
But they weren't built either.
No,
so
he is pretty jacked, which I don't know. He can hide well though in clothing. Like, he's a nerd at heart, so like all he has to do is not dehydrate for a week and his muscles won't be as toned, you know? Like, he said that about doing shirtless scenes in The Witcher was the worst part about it was by like the day you film it, you've had no water for like 24 hours at
Mhm.
that point, so the muscle clings to the skin clings to the muscle. And it's like, that sounds to me like a dude who would much rather be like having a fucking, I don't know, protein drink while playing World of Warcraft than, you know, being in it. I'm glad he left The Witcher. I'm not going to go back to it. I'm out. Like,
I'm not
Did
doing
it
the
a lot.
second half of the season. It was fucking
we didn't
atrocious.
watch season 2 and we were gonna, and then the way they handled the whole thing, and then it's just like, and then I from my understanding, the way they handle his exit on the show is just
it's-
downright awful.
It
Yeah,
makes
it's
me happy that I didn't
terrible.
get past
Stupid.
the first episode.
Like,
Yeah, it's stupid.
yeah, I don't know,
Because
man.
I hate wasting time on something that's
Oh, you want to hear something?
like I find out later.
Something fucked up. The guy who wrote the original Metro novels, in Russia, the Metro 2033 and those, he got arrested for, what was it? It was basically talking shit about the Russian military and making
Oh, wow.
claims that they claimed were incorrect, and they arrested him, and he's in prison for 8 years.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
His name was Dmitry something. Yeah, they arrested him. He's going to be in prison for 8 years in Russia for, I can't remember the word they used, but it was essentially disparaging or something, whatever the word they used. He got arrested.
Disparaging of the country.
Of
disparagement?
the military. Basically, they were saying because I'm going to assume he had done like talks and shit and didn't speak super kindly on the Russian military, considering how the militarized groups look in his books and games. He probably doesn't have a great opinion on them. So he probably, he's probably said some things they wouldn't like.
Dude,
Man,
Putin,
imagine
real quick political, Putin has to get his shit together because a couple weeks ago there was a rogue general who didn't like what Putin's general was doing, and he's a well-known general. This guy's retired. He's a well-known general, and in Russia, he literally is like, you know what? I'm gonna take my faction of people, my tanks. I'm gonna roll up to your fucking, border, and I'm gonna handle your military. And he did. He got like to Russia's capital. Like, it was insane. I was like, what the fuck is going on? So
Look,
they finally talked him down. They're like, why don't you back off? The general we have, we're gonna fire him. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to. I'm like, what the fuck is
fire
going on?
him? We'll
Yeah, they
demote him
fired
to
him.
mailroom. You know what
I was
though,
like,
man? I wouldn't
you were
sleep.
demoted.
I wouldn't sleep on Putin. He is the only man to be able to beat Steven Seagal and Yahiro.
That's true.
It's fucking.
Does Seagal just live in Russia?
He's denounced his U.S. citizenship. He's a Russian citizen
Why? How do you think he's making more movies?
because they're funding it. There's weird
they're
Russian
funding
dudes
all
who are
his
like,
movies.
"Out for Justice is my favorite movie. Please make a movie with me."
That's going to be
Dude,
John Cena soon.
Seagal can break his neck, be a complete quadriplegic, and they would put him in another movie. Like,
I want to see the true story. Steven Seagal goes to the fucking buffet. You fat fuck. Oh, I was doing some Aikido, so I needed 6 sushi rolls and 2 ice creams and a fillet of mignon, and don't forget the shrimp cocktail, you piece of shit.
Stop by the Waffle House. for
Yeah.
lunch.
On the way home, we need to hit Chick-fil-A for later.
his kung fu, like, YouTube videos are fucking hilarious.
then
And
he-
I'm talking about the ones now.
Him claiming he taught, what was it, Anderson Silva, the one kick? And it's like on record that Silva was doing that kick before Seagal even met him.
We
Just-
gotta review some Seagal movies.
I
dude.
agree.
Did he teach him the kick where his shin got broken in half?
Well, he's got some legit good movies like Out for Justice, Marked for Death, Under Siege 1 and 2, even though 2 is lesser quality.
Air Force One.
No. That's Harrison
if-
Ford. You're thinking of Executive Decision.
Oh, executive decision where he dies in the first.
Yeah,
5
which
minutes,
is
whatever.
literally audiences flock to the theater to see Steven Seagal in this political thriller action movie, and I remember watching it at home being like, oh, when's gonna happen? And he gets sucked out of the fucking tubing out of the plane, and like I was sitting there like, did he just die? And then it's like Kurt Russell, the rest of the fucking movie. Like, John Leguizamo makes it farther in that movie than Steven Seagal does.
I believe that's the one they got into a fight on the set of.
Yeah, I think that was the only movie that they were actually in together. And then there's the story from Tom Arnold where they were filming Exit Wounds and they're filming on the houseboat. And they're like, all right, we need to make sure the scenes and whatever and prepare. And Seagal's like, no, we film now. And he's like, no, we got to make sure. And he's like, no, now. And so like they start rolling, and he opens the door and goes right into the water. Like he opened the wrong door and just splished. And the way Tom Arnold explains it is all you saw was this black like hair dye floating above him in the water. It was just all over everywhere.
Oh god.
I like Exit Wounds. I recognize it's not a good movie, but I fucking like that movie a lot. It's one of my. I remember seeing that movie. There was this little theater, dude. We would go to Maryville, Indiana, and at that time when we were kids, it was the only place you could go to, like Meyer. Meyer wasn't everywhere like they were now. They started in Michigan and kind of spread out everywhere now. But back then, we would go to Maryville, Indiana to go there, and there was a strip mall with like a Best Buy, a couple other things, and in the corner was this like little 5-screening theater. It was $5 a movie. And we would fuck off in there while they did the shopping, because back then my mother would take forever. And we would go see a movie. I saw so many awesome movies in that little shithole theater. I miss it so much. I miss it almost as much as I miss the original Davis. The original Davis was awful. You would literally be sitting there going, what smells like shit? And then you look over and it's like, oh, the sewer right next to me. Like, it was
with a couple of the theater chairs are inside of the hole too.
Yeah, it was a shithole. They've remodeled it now, but when we were kids, it was like, what do you want? You just spent $1.50 on the movie ticket. Like, fuck off. Like, you come here for quality? The popcorn is more expensive to seeing the movie. Fuck off. I remember Godzilla. We saw Godzilla there, and the film skipped, and the dude went, trudging out of his seat. I'm getting my fucking money back! And it's like his $1.50.
The greatest one I saw was X-Men 2. There was a scene where the porcupine girl hugged one of the superheroes, and she porcupines them, but it cuts to the next scene. So she clearly kills him. The scene, they zoom in on her from behind, like it's her face and the back of the hero's head. And she hugs him, and she activates her ability, and the fucking screen goes off, and the lights go on, and I'm like,
shit, I remember being in the theater watching Resident Evil, and a guy got mad because people shushed him, and he threatened him with a gun. And I remember, we were in, we got there late-ish, right as the movie was starting, so we were, in the second row. And we were ducking down, and there's a dude next to us, oh man, I just want to watch a fucking movie. And he's trying to duck down. I remember looking up, and one of the biggest black security guards I have ever seen came out of nowhere like a linebacker and just fucking Goldberg speared this guy to the fucking ground. And before you knew it, there was because those are all ex-Chicago cops, or not off duties. Especially now.
As you came through, did you hear stars and he tackled the guy?
No, I wish there would have been the Gladiators theme music or something. Fucking, this guy was badass though. He came in and he was just like, "Not today, motherfucker," and he just went after this guy. I was sitting at my thing oh, hey, there's Mila Jovovich's bush. What's going on back here? I still like the first Resident Evil. The rest of them can kind of all be thrown away.
But I will give it to those first movies. They actually had, really good Easter eggs. The characters looked accurate, in terms of costume.
But by number 7, it's an alien invasion, and Wesker for some reason has been in the last 3, and it's just I know this is a Resident Evil movie because the characters have the same names. That's just about it.
Yeah, because of Nemesis and 3 being my favorite, I really like the second one.
I like the second one because of Nemesis and Mike Epps. The movie's goofy as shit, but at least it's goofy with some funny dialogue as opposed to just shitty goofy.
Dude, when Nemesis steps out and it's a guy in a block costume just to make him look bigger, it's the greatest thing ever. He did the slow walk and everything. I was what the fuck?
Before we get into this review, did you guys see Old Boy is coming back to theaters? Apparently it's a restored version of it, so I'm hoping that we're going to get a 4K of it. And I'm not talking
original?
about I'm not talking about the Josh Brolin one, the Spike Lee travesty.
And for I'm excited because we just got a 4K of Needful Things, which is a Stephen King movie, and it's got an extra 45 minutes. And there's going to be a 4K of The Mist with the black and white.
I was going to say, are they going to have the black and
white?
Yeah,
you're finally getting it.
Lewis has been watching it on the dark web for 3 fucking years.
I just got my last shipment today of the last 5 Ultramans, so I literally own every Ultraman in both the anime version and live action.
I just every time I see it on Slick Deals, I'm like, goes to Giovanni, like he's Ultraman.
I never realized how much Ultraman adaptations,
TV shows, movies, all sorts of shit, dude.
It's a lot, super influenced.
So I just real quick, I happened to take a look at, you guys know the Sega Mega Collection on PC, how through the workshop they upload basically every game you could think of on the Genesis. Well, now some people are just making games, and then some people are porting other like Super Nintendo games over. It's so odd, like there's some Russian versions of like Super Mario World on it, and it's like, what the fuck? This is awesome. I'm in. Fuck it. I'll look at the random alien-looking characters. All right, let's start this off. Lewis, I think I don't know where Giovanni's 100% at in this one. I will have to say from the get-go, I do think Lewis and I disagree on this show quite a bit. And I'm surprised by that, because I went into this thinking I was going to absolutely hate it. I thought it just looked dumb, and I wouldn't like it. Minus a few episodes, I found myself enjoying it mostly. It is a little frustrating that they wait till virtually the last episode to reveal that none of what you're seeing is supposed to really be Twisted Metal anyways. It's like the prelude to it, essentially. Spoilers, by the way, everybody. We're going to be we'll go deep in on this one. We're going to be spoiling the whole thing.
I guess before we jump into it real quick, any favorite Twisted Metal characters you guys normally pick? Mine was always Mr. Grimm and Darkseid. Also
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth's dad, the cab driver. I can't think of his fucking
name.
Yeah,
he's the boss in what
either,
number?
Yeah.
Is it number 3 or 2? He's the boss. 2?
I think it was 3.
I think
it was 3.
Okay, because I couldn't remember because
number 1 was Calypso.
Oh, Sweet Tooth is the boss in the one they did for PS4, I think, in 2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm a classic Sweet Tooth guy. I did like Preacher in Twisted Metal Black, but I think that's because he had dual machine guns as opposed to a singular one.
Preacher, yep.
And that also, like, so I'm going to say this. I understand that the originals had story, but for me, because the story in the originals was a text screen, essentially, and like a little bit of hand-drawn art, Twisted Metal Black, for me, is where I was sort of kind of benchmarking the TV show off of. And I will say, comparing it to Black, it's wildly different, because Black was a really dark game that, like, every character had a story that intersected with other characters, and none of them had happy endings.
Have you guys watched the lost footage for the Twisted Metal?
No, what is that?
When the game was being developed, they filmed live action, like B-movie quality endings, real live endings for each character.
That was popular, but that was like the Sega CD era.
Yeah, and they didn't get used, obviously, but they got used for the Twisted Metal Head-On edition, which came out for PlayStation 2. You can find them on YouTube. I look them up. I think it's like 30 minutes long for each character. Like if you watch those, because at the time that was what they were going for.
Yeah.
Which I'll get into when we talk about the show. But if you can YouTube them, like they're awesome.
I want to check them out. Yeah. Well, I like how in the end they do set up the next season to really make me look forward to it. I'm not gonna lie, considering I didn't hate this season, and how they show you that next season we know they're gonna have other characters from the series. They've already shown you they're gonna have like the lead character from Twisted Metal 2, the guy who's on the cover. You see him as his image at the end. And it was a little bit fun for me going, all right, what the fuck? Because at a certain point, I was starting to understand that these were gonna be the characters, but they're not. It's like their origin stories. So like the chick in the truck, I was like, because the granny who dies is a character in like number 3 or 4. So like I was trying to, it was fun figuring, okay, who is this going to be? I like the fact that John Doe ends up actually going back to his car of roadkill. That was one of the hanging things early in the season for me, was like, the fuck? Like, who the fuck is Evelyn? And I like the fact that they get to the roadkill thing.
I agree with you. When the show started and they introduced John Doe and they showed his car, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and then when you meet Calypso, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
yeah, he's
Like, I was
relegated
a
to just the
little,
speaker.
I was a little frustrated. Um, and yeah, the ending is what I wanted the whole show to be.
Yes, and that's that. So it is kind of a bittersweet thing because it's one of those things where I think they really did deliver a great ending. But seeing how great it was, I really do wish it would have been the rest of the show would have been much more in line. Because for a show that is based off of a game that is purely vehicular combat, there's only like 3 or 4 episodes that actually have vehicular combat in them.
Is one of the photos they show on the board at the end, is it Axel, the
Yeah.
dude?
With the 2 tires?
It's
Yeah.
Axel.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. I think he was the main character in the storyline for number 2, and he was going against
He was on one of the covers, wasn't he?
number 2,
2.
I believe he's on the cover, yeah. And I think
Such a
his whole
dumb
thing
card.
was he was going against so Calypso's in the first one, and then I thought it was Sweet Tooth in the second one, and then Sweet Tooth's dad.
No, I thought
Or was he is that Sweet Tooth's dad who's the boss in that one?
the cab driver I think is the second one, because the third one I know is Sweet Tooth.
Okay.
Yeah, by the third one, Sweet Tooth is running the tournament, and at the end, he makes you kill him, which is weird.
So, can we talk about Sweet Tooth in the show? First off, he's probably my favorite character,
Me too.
but I really want him to come back in number 2, but I want a darker one. Like, he was dark, but it was really goofy dark. I like that.
Well, this is a comedy though. It is an action comedy.
Well, yeah,
So-
but that doesn't mean the character can't
That's
be
what I
like he was
don't
so
like.
goofy he wasn't menacing. That was the problem. Like Sweet Tooth is supposed to be menacing, as like his shit isn't supposed to be oh ha funny. It's supposed to be kind of so dark, you kind of chuckle like oh shit. And
Like I think his story would have been better if instead of Steve was named Steve telling him these are your fans and keeping the fans alive. I think keep the same story, but have Sweet Tooth kill them all. Like he should have killed them. Like that should not been having fans should have not been his motivation.
well, what I would have thought, I don't know. You could have also taken it where they instead of killing them all, they arrest them and make them all lawmen. So then when he comes in and he has that line where he shoots the rockets at the 18-wheeler and says everybody burns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right there could be a way of disassociate. I did like how they showed how fucking crazy he really was. You know, I like how they went into that corner. I wish, and I agree with Alex, but this is where I wish it was a little bit less of a comedy. Because one of the big issues that I do have with the show is how horribly tonally imbalanced it is.
Yeah.
That's the one of the because you know there's a lot of I mean you literally go from us watching her brother get his ear cut off to more Anthony Mackie wisecracking, and then you have a whole episode wasted with them developing a relationship and fucking in a ball pit. Like I would get rid of that entire episode, make them like each other over the journey, and give me more vehicle combat.
That was cool with the Watts fucking storm though.
Yeah, which I think is gonna play into because isn't there a storm in one of the I think number 4, one of the games there's a storm that you end up fighting. I thought I might be remembering wrong.
Yeah, so I guess I'm probably the odd man out of liking this show, but I will preface that with I don't think it's a terrible show. I think this adapting Twisted Metal is tricky because you can't make a show that's mostly vehicle action because of the budget. You can't make a movie that's mostly vehicle action because how many people know what the fuck Twisted Metal is?
Yeah.
So, like in my head, I would love a like Mad Max Fury Road Twisted Metal thing, but the truth is it wouldn't make any money. So I think even though I didn't like this show, I honestly think they did a good job with what they had.
It's no
but-
Halo, I'll tell you that much.
I do hope what you see is essentially that they give the tournament and they introduce each character. You continue the storylines. Obviously, you're going to have the John Doe ends up facing Quiet in the tournament. I'd like to see it to where, Sweet Tooth is kind of held off maybe until the third or fourth episode when you have maybe tournament number 2, and then he's kind of a surprise, like, or he's in the tournament and he eventually
crashes the tournament at the end or something.
Yeah, like he eventually,
he
turns on it and flips it upside down where he's got his line, "Everybody burns," like you can utilize that sort of shit.
There are characters they don't hold off, like Raven. I hope Raven gets her vehicle. Like, I hope they don't hold her off until
the ending,
season 3.
The China Doll masks. What character was that supposed to be?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Know if that was something new.
To be fair, guys, there's like 45 characters throughout the 5 games.
Yeah.
But
they're
they're mostly notified by their vehicles. It's hot. Sweet Tooth and John Doe, they're easy because
Preacher's was an easy one.
Preacher, yeah, because their character was so driven by their motivation was so driven that their vehicles became second nature to those characters. But everyone else, like,
they also purposely kept out characters in Twisted Metal lore that kind of deal with like demons. Like Grim is the fucking Grim Reaper.
Well, yeah, but now Sweet Tooth's fire was a curse, if I remember correctly, wasn't it?
It was
like his whole storyline in Twisted Metal Black was like, I need to get rid of this goddamn curse. Like there's several cutscenes where he talks about it.
And I believe doesn't John Doe die at one point and become Spectre?
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
There's a ghost driver. There's a driver who's a ghost. Like, there's a ghost driver, Sweet Tooth has a curse, Grim Reaper's the literal death.
I do honestly think the best phase, and I think it was really smart of them, because you're going to have a lot of people going, this wasn't Twisted Metal. The fact is, they did set up an incredible, I think, foundation for what can be a true Twisted Metal show. Now that you've gotten all this backstory shit out of the way, Season 2 really does have if they do it right, you can make a legitimate Twisted Metal show and still keep the storylines you got going, where you can still have all the in-between shit, but there needs to be, and like, to be fair, that last episode's vehicular combat was awesome.
Yeah.
It was, but it was also when the first episode played and Anthony Mackie is an Evelyn and there's the cool scene. While I was watching it, immediately in my head I was like, we're not going to see something like this till the end. Again, because you can't because of the budget. But
so watching the show, even that first car scene, I was like, this is a little weak. When Quiet goes to fight, I think his name was in the show is Justice, right? Or
Outlaw, was it Outlaw or Justice?
Outlaw. It was Outlaw,
right? I used to like Outlaw because he had a big beefy truck.
She goes to fight Outlaw, and he's like, this is the town. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Boss fight. Like, this is good. And it was over so quickly. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I mean, the second season, I hope the show does well, so then they get maybe a little bit better budget. In season 2, you see more of that.
He's still going to come back. That's the police officer one, right?
Well, he supposedly shot himself in the head. Spoiler alert at the end of it.
Are you talking about Lawman?
Yeah, Lawman.
You know what's funny?
I don't think he's dead.
In the first game, Lawman is not a bad guy. He just wants to stop all crime. Mm-hmm. And you beat the game, and Calypso's like, okay, I will send you somewhere where there's no crime. And he shoots Lawman out to space.
Yep.
I wish Calypso... by the way they handled Calypso was a little weird, because, like, Calypso in the original games was like a mysterious kind of like, does he exist? Doesn't he? Oh shit, he does exist sort of thing. And then they come to him and they're like, are you Calypso? And he's like, no. And it's like, this is fucking stupid. Like, why would you reveal him this way?
But not only that, like, Calypso is the
architect,
the all looming figure. Yeah, architect.
Yeah.
And they just, like, even in that conversation with him, they started talking about, like, oh, you never had pizza? Oh, you're such an idiot. And it's like, dude, you're standing in front of fucking Calypso.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and that's where I mean, I had no expectations for what the show would be. Um, remembering playing Twisted Metal one, Calypso. If you look up pictures of him, and if you watch the Lost
He's all
footage,
like
it's fucking
disfigured and
awesome.
shit, right?
Yeah, he basically has no skin on his face.
Hmm.
He looks like Carrot Top. But again, there's stuff they couldn't because it's a show and people don't know the IP. You can't make Calypso faceless man with a demon that work like you just
Yeah,
can't do that shit.
they
It's
really
not gonna
tried their best to ground it. To be
Yeah.
fair, like as much
They
as
did.
you can, minus the Sweet Tooth lighting himself on
But-
fire at the end for like 20 minutes. But other than that, they
And I
really
guess-
tried to stay grounded.
I guess like because we've all played Twisted Metal, and if you're a Twisted Metal fan, watching the show, when it got to the part where Raven tells John, Calypso will grant you your deepest desire, like that mysticism is thrown off for me because of the whole show. There
Because
was
it's
no
goofy.
mysticism. There's no mysticism in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you play Twisted Metal, there's a bit of mysticism.
Well, the whole
like
thing
we've already
behind
talked about.
Calypso is the whole idea. I think even some of the early like text cutscenes explain that like I think there's one of them where it's like I didn't know he even existed till I got a letter. Like
Mhm.
the whole thing is that Calypso, the idea behind him is he's rumored, but nobody who's ever met him speaks his name, and other people that have met him don't exist anymore. Like the idea being like he's this elusive like figure that's behind the shadows. Eventually, he gets I think pulled out, and I think he gets defeated by Sweet Tooth, and that's why Sweet Tooth ends up becoming the guy who runs everything.
Yeah, for Mr. Grimm's ending, he drags him back to hell. Um, that's the original Twisted Metal. It was I hate to use Black Mirror as an example, but all of the endings were like it's not as it seems, and I
Yeah.
think this show could have went in that direction of like nothing makes sense, everything's dark. I don't think that would have appealed to a wider audience, but if they do make a season two and they do the tournament, it's gonna mean people are dying. Like I think they have to dial back on the goofiness.
Yeah.
I think season two would have to be a bit more serious, and you do have to introduce the like, how did that happen?
I mean, also,
'Cause my-
I said this in text to you guys. I still feel the Death Race 2000 remake had way better vehicular combat than this TV show.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
if
absolutely.
you haven't seen that movie in a while, that movie has some pretty badass car-on-car violence.
I guess I mean if you do a season two, cut the episodes down so you can have more budget to do crazy shit.
Like do 8 of them instead of 10.
Yeah. Or yeah, two episodes of like setting shit up and 4 episodes of the tournament.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
spend your
Well,
budget there.
maybe that's what it should be. Maybe the idea should be you spend a few episodes building up to the tournament, and then the last 4 episodes of the season are the different levels.
But another problem I have with season 2, like I want to see it now because we're getting into the tournament,
Yeah.
but it comes back to that mysticism. Like Calypso's character was based off of the djinn, a genie, where like you get your wish, but there's always a downside. Like, and
That's the
if they
monkey's paw.
introduce that now, it's gonna be weird.
Well, they did kind of introduce it with the whole thing of he got his wish to be in the new San Francisco, but he hated it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So-
that's
that
true.
was
Yeah,
that was
okay,
from
I
what's
didn't
her
think
name
about
though. That was her.
Yeah,
granting a wish,
but it's still at least
not really
this-
a wish.
But she's
yeah.
working with Calypso, and like she
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
tells him,
she is.
she even tells him
Yeah,
like
so
I
you
gave
didn't
you
think about that.
everything you wanted. So like the season does kind of end in the same vein as like the storylines in the game did of like, yeah, you're technically where you want to be, but you're unhappy, like something's off. And his happened to be, he's got the home, but he doesn't have the heart.
I guess my biggest issue though is the comedy, which I mentioned.
Yes.
It's these shows don't appeal to me. Like I can only think the term I can think is like manufactured comedy.
Well, they've
when I think of shows.
somehow figured out how to make a modern streaming network TV show somehow feel like an old school, like early HBO TV show. Like it feels like a Cinemax TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and at times it feels like this is a comedy show with some twisted metal,
Yeah.
and at other times it feels like it's twisted
So,
metal and it has some comedy. And
let me
it's-
ask you, if it wasn't Anthony Mackie and it was somebody who's better at performing, and I'm going to use him as the example because it's easy, if Ryan Reynolds was in that role, where he is the wisecracking asshole that Anthony Mackie was trying to portray, does that change things? Or is it still too much comedy?
I think it's still a bit too much because there are moments in the show where it's supposed to be a serious moment.
Well, that's the
And it's
problem with
just
Sweet
kinda
Tooth
like-
scenes is literally he goes,
Yeah.
you know, which I think they handled Sweet Tooth pretty well. And I'll point to the scene where you find out that he locked his parents away and he's got just their remains are sitting there. And he goes
I
from
forgive Sweet Tooth.
well, he goes from like destroying their fucking remains to like that's the end of the tour.
But I forgive that. I forgive that because going in, you know, Sweet Tooth's crazy. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
So like it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like he's not connected with the rest of the world, and I think it works because like John Doe, Steve, Quiet, the Outlaw Man, everybody who knows Sweet Tooth when he does that shit, they all have that look like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, Alex and I were talking last night. I would love to hear Samoa Joe, where he recorded the lines and they digitalized his voice like they did Will Arnett's and they distorted it, just to see, because Samoa Joe really does put on a great physical performance in this show.
Yeah, but
He
like I
does,
said,
surprisingly.
when it comes to him talking, him on stage for the wrestling, his promos are not very good.
Yeah, but they've already
because
got
he stumbles
they've
and-
already got so much filtering and shit done to Will Arnett's voice. You mean to tell me you couldn't do something to make his voice more menacing? Like I understand he's not, and I agree with you. He's not great on the mic, but Will Arnett has to be in this because he produced it.
But are you going to focus on the delivery of the line, or are you going to focus on the digital enhancement of it? Because like, the way he probably would deliver the line wouldn't be as like the cadence and all that shit.
Yeah, but that's
it's
how do
not
we?
going to matter because his voice would be an ADR. He would do his own voiceover after.
It reminds me of the whole Hellboy Abe Sapien thing, where the first one you got the guy from Frasier, and then the second one they let Doug Jones do his own voice. So it's one of those things of like, is Will Arnett needed? Like you've got a small budget. Do we need Will Arnett taking up some of the budget when you could have let Samoa Joe do it, even though you knew you were gonna synthesize it and digitalize it in post?
Speaking of
Plus
budget,
he can re-record if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Speaking of budget, I only found that it's like $45 million for this
For the whole
show.
season, so like $4.5 million for per episode isn't bad, but it's low compared to the heavy hitter shows.
Most of the money went to Sweet Tooth's hair at the end and the missiles.
Which the hair didn't look that great. The hair didn't look that great.
Show has some pretty bad use of green screen.
Yeah,
It does.
Every time they're in a car and like the person's looking over, I was like, "What the fuck is this? Is this driving Miss
And the
Daisy
stunt-
shit?"
The stunt doubles. Let's talk about the stunt doubles. We were talking about this before we recorded. There's a scene where Sweet Tooth jumps on Lawman's car, and it is clearly like a very fit, young, muscular man.
I still say
versus
the worst
Sweet
example
Tooth.
is Preacher.
Yeah.
That is the literally the guy has his shirt open and you can see that he's not ripped in any way, and then his stunt double does a backflip and you're like, that guy's got 8 abs. Like how? That's not the same guy.
It's funny that you say that because I was watching Leprechaun the other day, and there's a scene where the guy that Jennifer Aniston likes is on the ground because he stepped in a bear trap. Warwick Davis is like pelting him, and they flip between scenes of Warwick Davis like with his hobbled fucking feet, and then a grown man way taller than him.
Lovely.
So
yeah, the CGI in the show goes from like decent to like, all right, like that's not that great, guys. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
no, it's the Indy car at the end. The
Twister,
CGI on
oh.
that damn Indy car.
oh
my
god.
god!
I love Twister.
Yeah, but just the whole thing, the idea of a missile making any sort of contact and not exploding.
Yeah, I was like,
Like you literally hear it. You hear it ting.
that's sensitive. Yeah,
Yeah.
the sensitive point that when that's hit, missiles do explode. It didn't explode. Like, come on.
Like, and it's supposed to be a
that's-
heat seeker on top of it.
That's also the problem is like how do you can't, if you keep going more seasons, you can't shift. You're locked into the goofiness now.
Yeah,
It's kind of-
that's the problem is, but moments like that are where I agree with you, where it's far too much Bugs Bunny. Like, you know what I mean? It's way too cartoonish. Like, I do like the show. I think the writing needs to get cleaned up. I think a lot of the writing was just downright stupid. The episode where him and her kind of couple was a waste of an episode. Episode 3 was another one that I don't remember what the context entirely was, but I remember after I watched it, like, okay, that's an episode that doesn't need to be in this show. Like, I fully understand what they tried to do here, and I like most of it. I like how they show Agent Stone's kind of where he was when it all went to hell. I like where they eventually showed John Doe was when it all went to hell. I like those little flashbacks. Things that don't make sense is he's driving. Now, everything went to hell, then what was it supposed to be, 2002 or something?
That was 2, yeah.
So 02 would not have the elongated PS1 cases of games in the shops anymore. That's not how that works. Like, they are treating it weirdly to the point of, like, 02 means it's almost like they think that, oh, the people that are watching this were born in 05. They don't know what the fuck we're doing anyways. And so they're just like, yeah, no, PS1 was still popular in 02. No, it's not you didn't go into a GameStop in 02 and there was display cases of the elongated early versions of You got to remember, PS1 games went to the regular jewel cases after the first like year or two. So like those elongated ones are going back to the early fucking 90s, like, or not early, mid 90s. And like, I'm sorry, I was in malls in the early 2000s. That's not how it worked. Those games were in a fucking cabinet in your average EB Games, or they used to have EB Games used to be called Babbages, believe it or not.
Babbages.
And then GameStop ended up buying them, and they stayed EB Games in Canada, but are GameStops in the US. Fucking Canadians always got to be different. And EB Games actually stands for Electronic Boutique Games. I don't know why I'm telling you this. It does not stand for Earthbound, unfortunately for him. We're actually discussing trying to get a D&D game started.
Earthbound, that would be a good movie adaptation.
That would be. I'd actually watch a TV show on that, give it a little time to breathe, if they had decent production value. Like, that's the thing is, like, does it matter anymore if the budgets are all the same, if it's a TV show or a movie for certain licenses? Like, not everything I don't think would make a good TV show, but not everything maybe wouldn't make a good movie either.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's why this show deserves its cult following, because they took and this is me. This show is not for me. I didn't not enjoy watching it, but I watched it knowing like, this is not my thing. But I also watched it knowing like they took a fucking video game about cars killing each other, and they actually made it into a show. Like,
that's watchable.
It's
Halo.
insane when you think about it.
So Jen has a couple frustrations. First off, she doesn't understand how John Doe is able to get condoms, yet women can't get razors for their disgusting armpits.
Yeah, I didn't.
The other thing she said a couple times. What was it? It was It was when they flashed back to she wanted to know who took his braces off. Because in the flashback, he's got braces.
Out here asking the hard question.
Yeah. She's watching it and she goes, "Okay, I get it, but who took your braces off?" Like, she's like, "Okay, he could fix the car, but who took the braces off?" Like, that really bothered her. Literally, the last thing she said when the show ended, the episode ends, and she's like, "Still want to know who took his braces off." And it's like, I get it. Like, I understand that. It's a weird sticking point, but
I've watched him take braces off. It's just a pair of pliers, and all they do is pull it off.
I guess if you poke around enough, you figure it out.
Yeah, and he didn't he say that you have to keep fucking with shit to make sure if it works.
Yeah, until you find the right fit.
Until you find the right fit. Yeah,
that's got to be terrifying. Like in your rearview mirror in the car, just
and you're trying to pull your own fucking brackets off.
The gum is bleeding. The gum is bleeding.
I'm sure, like when he tried to get way back there, he pinches his cheek and shit.
Well, the other thing doesn't make sense is like, gasoline is a treasured resource. Where is the people who are getting it from? Like, if you're not
inside the cities,
if you're not refining it, where are you getting it from? Well, they don't really even explicitly say that, because it's like he's a milkman and he gets paid in gasoline. Where are these small little groups getting gasoline from? Like, there's a lot of stuff that there are plot holes in how not plot holes, but holes in the environment they created for the game. Like, they didn't go deep at all in the currency system and how that works in this new milkman thing.
In the city, in New San Francisco, whatever it's called, they do use currency.
They use
because
money.
he tries to pay him in bullets. Then he says, "Oh, do you want gasoline instead?" And he's like, "I just take the money that's right there." So there's obviously jobs in the city, and
well, and that was the other thing, is maybe I just watched it too close to each other, but it reminded me way too much of The Walking Dead. When you get to like the new San Francisco shit,
yeah,
where it's people wearing ears because they have slaves essentially, that they can do whatever they want to. What kind of contract is that?
I know, but they can't speak.
Which of course
weird.
gives her backstory of quiet and why she was quiet, even though through half the season she starts off as a badass chick that doesn't speak, and then eventually falls in love with him and turns into
with no middle finger.
Yeah, they show that scene is pretty fucked up. How she's like, "Oh, I love your new earrings," and she's like, "Oh, I just started a necklace," and that's chick's finger. It's like, oh, fucking bitch.
Yeah, it's so bad. But I will say that at least the people who put the show together, you could tell there were some fans of Twisted Metal in there. Like the Easter eggs were really well done. The vehicles were mostly accurate to a point. Halo, this is how you do it. I would also like to talk to Johannes. Listen, Johannes. Okay, your Resident Evil movie, you weren't a fan. This is how you do this. This show wasn't that good, but this is how you do it. Okay, these people were clearly fans.
I am hoping Preacher comes back a little bit more like the original character, because the whole thing is, you gotta remember, they were trucking him off into the vehicle and he was like burned.
Yeah.
So I am hoping that him getting injured during that turns him into that like stone cold Preacher character, more or less. But I like that actor. I just don't know if that was the best. Like what's his face would be good for the Preacher role, the guy who played the Punisher, Thomas Jane.
Ooh,
like even at
nice.
for his current age and everything, he would have been a good, I think, actor for that. But it's a weird casting. They definitely changed the character a decent amount by casting that guy.
Yeah, there's just some weird shit in the show. Like the one scene where they're all having a party and the dude's trying to like use his dick to hit something. It's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that didn't need to be in the show at all. Like they could have left it. They could have left it as like a, oh, like, is it real that he breaks watermelons with his dick, or is it just a running joke? Like, they didn't need to show it.
And then a lot of Anthony Mackie's comedy, like,
terrible. He does not do well with the wisecracking asshole character. Like, he's not a good writer. And that's why I kept saying
it's because of the facial expressions he does.
But the writing the writing for his character was meant for a Ryan Reynolds or a character like that. Like, or an actor like that. Like, he just doesn't do the sarcastic, quick-witted guy very well.
But I'm saying when he delivers the lines, he makes these faces like if he's like a 7-year-old that just told a joke that he wasn't supposed to tell, but he's got the adults laughing at him. So he's like, you get it?
Yeah, there's something.
He's like, I don't.
Like
he's like that kid.
I feel like his character's writing, if it was done by somebody who does those type of roles traditionally, like that sarcastic sort of, like a Deadpool almost. That's why I keep referencing Ryan Reynolds. His character would have been a lot more likable.
Yeah, you can, all of Anthony Mackie's lines, you can space them out, pause them, and it would be like you just throw in the laugh track. Like he just made a joke, laugh track, joke, laugh, and it's like, dude,
and that same thing with Sweet Tooth, especially in the early episode where he's in Vegas. There was a lot of that where it's like insert laugh here, and a lot of that humor was cringy early on. I agree.
Anthony is not a fan of the silver-haired god. When Sweet Tooth says, "Are you a fan of the silver-tooth god or silver-haired god?"
Oh, no.
And they start singing Cisco's
song. Sweet Tooth by the end of the season grew on me, but like that introduction and all that, like to an iconic character that's on the cover of most of these games, it was just like, this is fucking stupid.
I think
this is stupid.
the scene where I started to really like him was when he takes out the first lawman post.
When he breaks in,
At the dam.
Yeah, when he slaughters everybody.
Yeah, my issue with Sweet Tooth though is like, I would have liked it as if the show progressed, like he was doing wacky stuff, and more of the people around him, you get a sense of like, oh, this is not fucking funny.
Yeah,
Because like,
oh,
when you
so
have people kind of going along with his jokes, it's like, no, he's insane. Like,
Well, that's what happens with Stu, that guy that's with him, Stu.
there was a
He
couple.
starts to
It's
see it.
still-
He's like, wait a minute.
There's a couple
he's
lines
so
that he
goofy,
delivers
like-
though, like when he leaves Harold in charge with the gun, and he comes back and they've all been shot, and he's like, "Harold, what did you do?" Like there are some funny fucking lines, but there's also
That was funny.
like there's a couple of them that threw me off because I was used to the kind of cringe level humor they were giving him, and he does have a couple legitimate like laughs. But I agree.
So-
I wish he would have been way more on the menacing side and less on the goofy clown side.
Stu
I mean,
and
he
that
was
other
feared.
guy-
Nobody went to Nevada because he was
Yeah,
there.
he was like the ruler
Stu
of,
and Mike?
Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually get a car in the series, and I can't remember what car. Oh, Hammerhead.
I did like the last episode was clearly my favorite. You finally get a taste of the twisted metal. It reminded me on a very small scale of somewhat of like the Avengers or Captain America Civil War, where it's like they all just
Yeah.
meet in a fucking parking lot.
Then here comes Ant-Man fucking blowing shit up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even in that fight, the little nod, the nods to the characters, like when
Who
when
was the
Sweet
two
Tooth's
cops
missiles
supposed to
go
be?
off,
Was that a character or was that just made for the show? The two cops with the
Made
neck
for the
braces?
show.
The
I
brother
think
and
that was just
sister.
made for the
Oh,
show.
okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering
The-
because I was
the-
like, I don't remember these at all, but I feel like this would be the perfect example to have, like a throwaway
they
character
were-
that was in number 3. You know what I mean? Like just a random one.
they were in Quiet's vehicle, which is a hearse, and I
Yeah.
know there is a character. Who
Yeah,
drives
but
a
I
hearse.
thought the hearse was either wasn't it? Was that Preacher or Grimm?
They were Reapers, so it might be. I don't know much of the lore because, like I said, I've only played the game
'Cause
twice.
I
And
thought
that's
wasn't Grim the truck, the black truck.
Was Grimm the truck?
No, are you talking about the character Grimm?
Yeah. What was his
Character
car?
Mr. Grimm drives a motorcycle.
Oh, that's
right.
there's- There's a
They show there's a picture of him at the end with the,
Yeah,
the
there's a
biker with the red
this-
face.
semi truck driver in the game. The truck's called Dark Side.
That
The
yeah, Dark
driver
Side.
is Mr. Ash, and every time I saw a fucking semi truck, I was like, "That's Dark Side," and it's like, no, it's not.
You know, as soon as I
No.
saw like the women, I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be Granny, and then they show Granny for like 5 minutes, and then she's dead, and it's like,
I was a little-
okay,
Knowing her character in the game, I was a little flustered that they killed her off
yeah,
like that.
yeah, she
I
because
will-
she would have been fun to see in the tournament.
I will
Oh, yeah,
admit,
sure, amazing.
I chuckled when Anthony Mackie noticed that her tubes were not connected to anything.
Yeah, your oxygen's not connected. Damn it,
Um,
you got me.
But in that last fight, like when Sweet Tooth fires his missiles, they do the clown laugh. There's a clown giggle.
They
like,
also
it's
looked
low,
they
there's
looked
a clown
really
giggle.
cool too, like shooting it. Like the CG in that department was actually pretty well done.
Well, that they had to save it for the big finale. Like
Yeah, it's almost like Deadpool, where the original movie had a giant like shootout planned, and then they found out that their marketing budget was part of their entire budget, and that's the whole reason at the end of the movie he forgets his bag of guns is because they just didn't have the budget for it.
You want to talk about
Yeah.
bad CG? You could probably look it up on YouTube, but the very scene when Mike and Stu fall out of Sweet Tooth's truck and hit the road,
oh god,
in that
yeah.
scene, it looks so bad.
I remember when it happened. I just
was
watched it like an hour or an
horrible.
hour and a half ago. Yes,
also at the beginning, wasn't there like CG blood?
there was. It was on the
Yeah.
windshield
Yeah.
when he gets his new windshield wiper,
hmm
which I am still 100% against the use of CG blood.
Yeah,
Speaking of which, did you see the reviews coming in for the Voyage of the Demeter?
The
Far
Demeter.
so good.
Not bad, mixed sevens or so, but I mean, it's a vampire movie. There's only so much you could do.
It's based off one chapter in a book, so I'm sure
Yeah.
it's sure to be good.
It's like people were like they don't reinvent the wheel, and it's like it's a chapter in a book that's literally another 3 minutes of a different movie. Like you want him to he eats them all. Like what the fuck do you expect? Like it is what it is. Like that's the fucking voyage.
There
They
could
all
have been
get
a
eaten.
survivor. There could have been a survivor.
Yes, she was a.
Yeah, there was. His name is Dracula.
She was a transgender female transitioning into wildebeest, and she's the sole survivor. That's the show I want to see. Disney needs to make the next one. I was joking around, and I was talking about a character named Mr. Disney who wanted every character to be a trans. It's just like every female, he's like, Gal Gadot, we don't need her, get a trans in there. And it was this character of Mr. Disney who, for some reason, is just obsessed with using transgender actors. All right, so are we still going on the hot dog scale, and are we just doing a full season review on it?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to do the whole season.
I'm gonna go whole season. I'm gonna go 3.5 out of 5. I did enjoy it, but there's definitely some serious room for improvement. 3.5 hot dogs out of 5.
I'm gonna go with a 4 because I like I said, I didn't play much of it when the game came out. I was almost 30 years old. I wasn't really into.
Well,
into
it's
the
probably
whole...
smart they did it this way to attract people that have no fucking knowledge. It's like at least there's a base story for them to watch.
Yeah, and I did enjoy everything that I saw about it. Like I said, there was little bits and pieces as far as acting abilities go, and it's mostly a Mackie, where he just can't, like, you can't place his face right with the way he's delivering shit for me.
Yeah.
But it is a 4 because I'm invested. I want to see the second season. I want to see the tournament.
Yeah.
And I am familiar with the characters. I don't know the whole fucking lore of everything about it.
Well,
so
I
am
mean,
invested in it.
You
now.
have to assume that they're gonna, if they go second season, they'll. I don't know. There was a lot of lore in this one that they just made up on their own and didn't include from the game. So you have to imagine they're gonna still take liberties in season 2, and you know.
I think one of the other things too that I really liked about it is the entire soundtrack. I really enjoyed like the music that they used. Aside from like, I'm not really a fan of Cisco, but it was funny to me to hear that song. And I know you did, but it was funny to me.
If you're gonna go goofy, right, and you're thinking like 2000s, why not do like what is it? A Thing Called Love? I believe in A Thing Called Love. Like if you're already going goofy, go goofier with it. Like they should have played some garbage. You know what I mean? Like get some real late 90s, early 2000s bands.
What was the last song they used in that fight scene though?
Cake.
Yeah, that actually worked out pretty fucking good for that scene. To me, it did.
Yeah, it was like their music wasn't a bad choice. Although at one point I was watching it and I heard like a piece of one of the songs and I was like, "The fuck is this Evanescence shit they're playing?" And then literally the next episode they play that Evanescence song and I'm like, "Oh come on."
Giovanni Fabian said that your conversation looked like it was very serious over there when your wife came home.
Poisoning their
No,
neighbors.
she was showing me all the stuff she bought.
Oh, I guess it was serious. He's like, "Oh, you spent money."
Yeah, seriously
Both
sad
for her
now.
and the
not like
stuff.
you spend any money.
No,
Well,
I just bought an insert for one of my games. It was like $130.
All she's got to do is bring him home a Starbucks cup and it'll pacify him.
She actually brought home Starbucks iced coffee. So
there you go. He's done. He's fine.
You see, you could
good.
buy that in the store now for $6. You can get like a little liter
the
of
big
it.
thing. Yeah.
They're so full of sugar,
Nice.
aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
absolutely.
in store, it's like, no, we added all the bad stuff for you. You're fine.
Yeah.
How about it's like, just give me the black coffee and I'll add what I want to add to it. You
But for the
fucks.
price of one coffee, you get 3. Unless
I don't know, man.
drink it all in one.
I never buy that it's the same quality. It's almost like you can buy a 12-pack of soda, or you can get a fountain soda. There is a difference. Like
It's high in carbonation if you get the fountain soda.
Like getting a Coke out of the fountain tastes different than getting a Coke out of the can or a
Also,
bottle.
there's a shitload more syrup in the fountain drinks.
Also, shitload more bacteria, more than likely.
Oh yeah, because they don't clean the tubes.
Yeah. I don't drink really fountain sodas anymore because a lot of places don't have no sugar anyways. So it's like I don't drink that shit anyways. But that's the real problem with fountain sodas: the disgusting nozzles. It's all just bacteria and shit caking from the sugar that goes through them, and they all use those universal ones now, so it's all contaminated. We're all gonna die, is what I'm saying. It'll be
Are all
Twisted
gonna
Metal.
die.
Be Twisted
Everybody
Metal
is.
before you know it, and I don't have machine guns for the car.
For my rating, I will go kind of middle of the road. I'd say a 3. Like I said, this show is not for me. I'm not the biggest Twisted Metal fan. I was interested to see what they do with it. I think they did a pretty decent job. Um, these type of comedy shows don't work for me. It just reminds me of like fucking like The Good Place and Superstore and Working Mom. Like all of the comedy seems the same. And to be fair, I don't watch a lot of like comedy shows. All the ones I watch are can't be made anymore. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Always Sunny's still
for
going though.
surprisingly, I have
Somehow.
no fucking clue.
Unapologetically.
Yeah, somehow
Fine.
they're still going. I don't know. They haven't been. I don't know how they haven't been canceled.
Somehow
Or What We Do.
Yeah, no, but that's more like in like the
Yeah, no. Always Sunny. Literally, the season finale of the last season had a scene where they just ripped apart at both sides of the aisle for the extreme behaviors and how they talk to each other and everything. Like they ripped up both sides. Like they were one of the few shows that I think even directly was like these goddamn liberals, and they went after the like. No, yeah, they're a lot. Them and South Park is really the only two that I can think of that just don't give a fuck.
26 seasons for them. Shit.
Yeah, but I think for Twisted Metal, the showrunners somehow adapted something that is virtually unadaptable.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't love the show, like fucking hats off to them. If they release a season 2, maybe I'll rewatch season 1. Yeah, they made a show that essentially is that someone can enjoy even if they don't know what Twisted Metal is, which I think it's kind of cool. So yeah, I'll go
that's
with
true.
3 out of 5.
I watched it actually 3 times because the episodes are so short too. So I've seen this season 3 times already.
Okay, yeah, I will add that. Like, even though this show isn't for me and it was a slog to get through, short and sweet, dude. 30-minute episodes. Like,
yeah, I like that about it too.
Can we bring that back in shows? Like,
yeah, I dug that part of it too. Giovanni, did you give your amount yet?
Nope, not yet.
No.
Your turn.
Man. So I agree with Anthony that I feel the comedy was forced. I wanted something a little bit more darker because I do love the Twisted Metal games, and they're all pretty dark. I felt the comedy was pretty forced. I did, though, as a fan of Twisted Metal, love all the Easter eggs, all the nods. What threw it off for me was the comedy and the fact that this was a prequel. I understand why they did it the way they did it, again, because they're trying to appeal to a larger audience beyond the Twisted Metal fans. But I'm gonna say I liked it enough to give it a 3.5. I liked it enough to give it a 3.5. Yeah. I will watch season 2. I'm excited for season 2 because it is what Twisted Metal is gonna be.
Or it should be at least.
Yeah. The battle, the arena.
Well, I mean, if you look at
tournament.
it look at Last of Us. Last of Us gets a lot of praise because it was a good adaptation, right? But look at the source material it had to adapt from. It already had a movie it had a 15-hour video game of a movie to use. Like, the difference between them adapting that and this is you had, for the first 4 games on PS1, you had text screen endings.
That's true, yeah.
So, like, the fact that they were able to adapt it and have it make any sort of sense, and while, yes, it technically is a prequel to what the Twisted Metal is that we would probably recognize more for Twisted Metal, I still give them credit. Lewis said it right. They took something that really shouldn't be adaptable to a TV show format and made it to where, to a fault, I think, made it mainstream. And I agree with Lewis. A lot of the shitty comedy is shitty because it's like sitcom comedy. It's like there should be a laugh track. Like when she calls him stupid and he's like, "You're stupid." Insert Michelle Tanner, saying some shitty line.
I texted you guys the compilation of all the lost footage, and for any of you listeners, you could just YouTube Twisted Metal All Lost Endings. And I would like an adaptation, something along the lines of the video I just shared. I think it'd be cool to see a more horror-esque, like more darker, almost like Twisted Metal Black. Like I said, like I mean, they did something that is fucking. I don't think anyone else could have adapted or made what they made, and hopefully, the show's blowing up. So who knows? Maybe if you're a big fan,
I mean,
they'll get a season 2.
The only other avenue they could have taken that may have been a better choice is just starting the show out on one character that's kind of go along with the Twisted Metal Black storylines. Essentially, where you take John Doe and you run his storyline through where he's looking for whatever he's looking for, and then they could have theoretically done him as character portraits as well, which would have been cool. Let's say you took
like a character in episode.
Well, yeah. What if you had 10 episodes, right? 9 of the episodes sets up 9 different characters, and then the 10th episode. Well, no, that's the thing is that's how you keep people watching for season 2, right? You take episode 10 to set up the idea of the tournament and all these people coming together, and then season 2 is where we get into the tournament. Like, it would have been cool for them to do, like, and that's the thing is each one of these individual characters, their storylines would intersect with the other 8 characters that they're showcasing, one per episode. So you would have Sweet Tooth get involved with another character, you know what I mean? Like, kind of how they did in Twisted Metal Black.
Mm-hmm. I'll say it, like, the last episode to this show was brilliant. They fucking gotcha.
Yeah, they did a really good job, and it's one of those things where because of that last episode, I think is mainly why I'm looking forward to season 2, because it's like, all right, you gave me a pretty good taste of what I really wanted.
Did you watch post credit though?
I didn't know there was a post credit.
Yeah, so Stu and Mike at the end, they're sitting at the side of the beach with the mannequins.
They're blow up dolls.
Yeah, and they're acting like they got out of this shit alive, and fucking Sweet Tooth shows up.
Really?
Yeah.
But they did it like a slasher.
Yeah, like
slasher
Jason,
film,
like Jason shows up and shit.
I have to go back and watch that. I didn't know there was a post.
It was pretty cool.
I will say before we end, one thing they did include in the show that I didn't think they would. In the original Twisted Metal, Sweet Tooth, his wish is to get his buddy back, and it's a paper bag. And they did have him in the show, which I thought was fucking cool.
Yeah, I like there. It's like, Harold, your turn to drive, and he puts the bag in the driver's seat,
and he jumps out of the car. I did put that link in the Nerditude movie podcast in Discord. So if anybody who's following in the Discord, you'll find it there.
It's cool. It's like it's 20 minutes long. It's all the film endings for all of them that didn't make it in the first game.
When you said it the first time, I thought you said it was 30 minutes per character. So it's 30 minutes total. Okay, I can watch that.
All right, everybody. We will see you in a couple weeks. We're going to be taking next week off. Then we'll be back up and operational for some more fun. Everybody, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, and we're going to say goodnight.